which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, this morning PSTA has two very special visitors with us. First is Michael Delancey Sr. with the Wounded Warriors event. Greg Bracken, PSTA's Transportation Director, will introduce Mike and talk about PSTA's support for his recent Wounded Warriors event. Good morning.
Morning, Madam Chair and board members. We're here this morning to update you on a special event that we assisted with in conjunction with Transdev, our contract provider. On May 2nd through the 5th, the PSTA worked with the Wounded Warriors Abilities Ranch to provide transportation to the United States Wheelchair Rugby National Championship. And we've got a few slides here.
That monitor's turned.
Try the arrow. It's frozen. It's not going anywhere. Should have a key to it. There you go. All the participants flew into Tampa International Airport, and we provided weekend service with 5 paratransit vans that could hold up to 4 wheelchair patrons, plus some ambulatory as well. So it was a pretty big task. You got a lot of equipment. They're works chairs, they call them, and they're regulars. So, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Mike Delancey here, and he'll go a little further.
Good morning, everybody. I'd just like to start off by saying thank you, thank you, thank you. We were searching far and wide for accessible transportation. We hosted smaller tournaments where we've only had a couple teams come in, and we were able to handle that with our infrastructure as an organization. But we had 18 wheelchair teams come in, and each team had about 10 to 15 users. So it was a massive undertaking, and we really appreciate everything. It started with a call to our city manager, who works a lot with our different events that we put on, and he told me to get in touch with Miss Patty Reed, and then she put me in touch with I believe Brad Miller from that point, and then it rolled. It was such a big blessing to have that availability with that, because transportation is the #1 thing when putting these things on.
Okay. And then you got a couple more pictures. Some more pictures of the event activities at both the airport and out at Wiregrass Sports Complex where the event was held. And then we have a little video. It should pop in. Come on. It was. No, it's that. It's that. It's a play.
Would like to officially welcome everybody to USWRA Wheelchair Rugby Nationals of 2024.
my first year playing, first time in Nashville. Have a great time. I don't know what else to tell you. We went 1-1 today, one more game at 7, so go blue.
To you.
Wow.
All right, so a little bit about myself and the foundation. I'm a longtime Pinellas County resident. I was born and raised here. I think I knew Miss Reed and all the Pinellas County officials since I was a baby. But I served with 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, and then I got shot in Iraq by a sniper. It rendered me paralyzed from the chest down. I started going back to the VA and exploring things that were available to me as a wheelchair and showing other vets that, your life's not over. You can still do the things that you did but prior to getting injured. And that sort of led us to starting the foundation. And our main goal is just to get veterans out and active. A few years in, we started building the park with the city, and we ended up building Wounded Warriors Abilities Ranch at Dr. Lori Park. It was not just ADA accessible park, but designed around the wheelchair user in mind. We had this idea because when patients were coming in for rehab out of the Tampa VA, it was a beautiful facility, but they didn't have places to transition veterans out of the hospital and back into the civilian world. So that was sort of where we got the idea. A few years later, we were introduced to the adaptive sports world, and let me tell you, it's way bigger than just the sport. Seeing these athletes come in for the first time fresh out of the hospital and not doing anything for themselves, and 2 or 3 years in, them having less function than myself and doing more, and gaining that independence is huge for them. We started building our program, and we actually won the bid to host Wheelchair Rugby Nationals this year, and thanks to you all, it came out to be a huge success. We've gotten compliments across the board for transportation is like the biggest thing. That's on their minds coming in, and you all helped us relieve that huge burden off. So again, thank you so much for that. And we won the bid for 2 years, so we will be back next year, first week of May. So we hope that we can continue this support. Thank you again for everything you all have done. Miss Reed, Mr. Brad Miller, James, all the crew that helped us out. I can't express in words how big that was, because accessible transportation is not easy to come by. So thank you.
Thank you. And before you turn the mic over, is there a website where we can follow along or get information on the next event? You said it's for 2 years, so next year, in case anyone's interested in participating or supporting it in some way?
Oh, absolutely. We run a lot more than just rugby. We have a wheelchair basketball team. We do a lot of fishing events, and we focus on just accessible events across the board. Our website is wwar15.org. And we also have a Facebook that's very active, that's a lot more up to date than the website, at just Wounded Warriors Abilities Ranch.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We didn't bring enough bags, but anybody would like a bag, there's a few items inside there as well.
Oh, okay.
And you
Thank
just got a new property.
Yes, we actually are very excited to announce we just signed a lease. We will be in the Lealman Exchange.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
Oh, yes, ma'am. We have a lot of our sports are run in indoor gyms, and having that gym facility right there, and then having the office space to have official, board meetings and all that stuff. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you for that. Commissioner Fig Sanders?
Yes, thank you,
Chair, I would be remiss as the mother of a Marine, a wife of a veteran, a daughter of a veteran, and I'm just surrounded to have you here and not say thank you so much for your service. Thank you for all that you continue to do and how you've shared your enthusiasm for life with others who you've actually shared needed that help, needed that transition. And thank you, Commissioner Reed, for providing this report so that we can also have another view of how important transportation is. It's bigger just getting from one place to another. The meaning that we bring to this board, and I want my colleagues to continue to remember this moment as to what it is that we actually provide in regards to transportation. But I have to tell you, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for all that you do. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. And I would like to add to that, it's people like my father, people like you all that help us have that red carpet treatment when we come back home that really helps us transition and lead successful lives. So thank you.
All right, thank you. What a great way to start this meeting. It's wonderful to see, and thank you for all that you do. So happy to hear how PSTA is supporting your efforts. And Commissioner Reed, kudos. I mean, you're just amazing.
It takes a village. So it was not just, the people that the names came out. It takes a village. It takes everybody that's here. It takes everybody that keeps this organization going, James and Ross and everybody that did this. And this family, if you haven't experienced their organization and that they're real, I can't say enough about how real they are and to the point they are and what they need. And they do it for everybody. It's not just them. They turn away nobody. They do everything for everybody. They have dedicated their life to helping the wounded warriors, but it doesn't matter. They help everybody. So I was very proud to be able to say, hey, what do you need? We got this. TransDev, I have to give a huge shout out for them because I was told at our LCB meeting that they actually chose to donate their services for what they did to this organization. So that is a huge thing. And my understanding is that where they've done this at different cities, that ours was an outstanding service. They used to have to wait for 2 hours for people to pick them up from the airports, that they weren't all able to utilize their chairs, and these people couldn't go in that. TransDev is like, what do you need? We got this, if I'm my understanding, and was on the spot. So a huge shout out to TransDev. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you guys, and thanks for the kind words, but it's an everyday battle, but thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you all.
Our next guest is Molly King from the Federal Transit Administration. Henry Lukasik, PSTA's Director of Maintenance, will introduce Molly, who is here overseeing some important technical training. Hi, Henry.
Good morning. Good morning. Henry Lukasik, Director of Maintenance. Joining me here today is Ms. Molly King from the Federal Transit Administration's DC office, and she's the Deputy Associate Administrator out of the Office of Research, Demonstration, and Innovation. Before I let her speak a couple words, today we are hosting the inaugural here at PSTA, Battery Electric Bus Familiarization Course, one of the first of its kind. So as we know, transitioning from traditional diesel and CNG buses to zero-emission buses requires a significant commitment to additional skills, training, and development. Providing critical resources is part of a nationally coordinated effort to help prepare frontline technicians with the training needed to meet the challenges and demands of this new technology as a focal point for organizations such as the Transit Workforce Center, National Transit Institute, and of course our partners at FTA. A couple months ago, PSTA was contacted by those member organizations to see if we would be interested in hosting such a familiarization course. Given our experience and success so far with deploying battery electric buses, and of course our answer was absolutely. This two-day course will provide 14 participants from other transit agencies across the country with an overview and familiarization of battery electric bus basics, such as components and systems, preventative maintenance tasks, fundamentals, PPE, with real demonstration by our own PSTA technicians to assist with that training. So it's my pleasure to introduce and welcome again Molly King from FTA.
Good morning, and thank you all so much for having me. Again, my name is Molly King. I'm the Deputy Associate Administrator in the Office of Research, Demonstration, and Innovation at the Federal Transit Administration. My first time in St. Pete. I'm so glad to be here, so thank you all so much for having me. My flight was delayed yesterday, so I wasn't able to get in and tour with Brad and Henry and the team, but I was able to ride the number 4 bus yesterday evening. I went out for dinner, got to see your great downtown, and was able to ride the number 4 with bus operator Ray coming back. And I just want to say it was such a great way to see your community, right? To get to connect with your community members. Ray was super kind, helpful. You have a tap and pay system. It's fantastic. So really impressed with the service, and also just to get to see the community through a different lens, right? How people are able to connect to jobs, education, opportunities, healthcare, even just recreation, right? And live their lives here in St. Pete. So thank you for that. I will say that this course, we're so excited about it. It's been years in the making and in response to industry needs. It's been a big collaboration across our team. At the end of the day, it is a deployment of a new technology, a new propulsion system. We have support from our safety team members, from the Federal Transit Administration's Technical Assistance Center that's dedicated to workforce, the Transit Workforce Center, and the National Transit Institute, our training provider, in collaboration with bus manufacturers. Again, like Henry said very well, we're going to familiarize technicians with battery electric buses across maintenance, technology, and safety fundamentals. The materials have been available as a webinar since 2021, but what's worth noting today is that this is our first ever in-person class, and we all know how important those in-person connections can be and to learn from others. And I would just also note too that this is it's worth noting that we've got this class is for our frontline workforce. So mechanics are here today, not just managers and trainers, and it's going to be very targeted. We've got about 10 folks from around the state of Florida and as far away as Pittsburgh. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all, the board, Brad, Henry, and the team here at PSTA, along with our partners at the TWC and the NTI for making this happen and for helping to improve America's communities through public transportation. This work really matters, and you all are making a difference. So thank you, and I think I'm late for class, so have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for selecting PSTA as the location. Can't wait to hear more about it. All right. Now we'll move on to public comment, which is for consent agenda items or items that are not on the agenda. If you are interested in making public comment, please fill out a green card, which you can find in the front. Get that to staff at the front table here, and speakers will be recognized in the order in which the cards were received. Do we have any members of the public here who wish to make a comment? No? Okay, great. We'll go ahead and close public comment. And we'll go on to our consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any board member wishes to pull? Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to pull committee appointments 4C.
Okay, so we're pulling 4C, and do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with that change?
Motion approved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the change of polling item 4C. Could you please open the voting system? If everyone could please cast your votes.
And we have
That's it. There we go.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Yeah, we'll go ahead and take up item 4C. Commissioner Schulman, did you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So looking at the committee appointments, first off, I appreciate those that have stepped up to serve on committees. But when looking at what was being proposed, it leaves 4 of our board members not serving on any committee, and it leaves 2 of our board members serving on 1 committee each that meet sporadically. And I didn't think that was worth, it needed to be outside of the consent agenda, so we're not kind of just pushing past it. But also, I mean, the committees are where not only do we get a lot of the work of this board done, but where we also learn about the intricacies of what's going on within the organization, so that we're best informed to help ask the right questions and lead this organization. So when I see, over a third of our board not serving really on committees, I think that's a bit of a concern. So I would propose that we move through and look at finding slots for those board members that are not serving or are not serving as much, to make room for them to serve more.
All right, thank you. Great point. There's no other request to speak, so if you wanted to go ahead and make the first suggestion.
Well, ideally, I'd like the board members who are going to serve to be on committees that they're interested in, right? That it helps the conversation. So I don't want to necessarily speak for individual board members and slot them based on my preference. But Mayor Petrilla, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Eggers are not on any committee at this point. So I would ask them to indicate the committees they'd like to serve on as part of the conversation.
Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the other reason I'm not on a committee now is because the Vice Chair of the County Commission was appointed to TDC, which directly conflicts with the time that Finance Committee meets. I mean, that is the committee that I am most interested in. I feel that my experience is most valuable on. So if that committee was moved to a different time or a different day, I'd be absolutely more than willing to serve on that. But right now, it just directly conflicts. So I just had to step away from that committee. So that's the only reason I'm not serving on the committee at this point.
All right. Thank you. That input is very valuable. I do wonder if there's flexibility to have it at a different time, or, I mean, yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work out, and I understand that. And although I do think that Commissioner Scott's knowledge and understanding of finance, especially as it relates to this topic, I think that would be extremely valuable, but I do understand that conflict with the time. So, and to be clear, not to put words in Commissioner Schulman's mouth, but I don't think this should be meant to have people feel like they have to give an excuse. But I do think it's a good discussion to have, just to give people an opportunity to see how this is balanced or not, and give everyone an opportunity to say, yes, I will help. Because you've got some folks who are serving on 3 and 4 committees, and others that are doing none. Some of us, as elected officials, are only part-time, I work 2 jobs. And I'm on a committee in addition to the executive committee as the chair. So I do wish everyone would pitch in, because we've got a lot of important things that we're tackling, and committees are a really excellent way to get more involved and do a deeper dive into some of the topics that we take up here and the issues that we face. My 2 cents. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Just wanted to say I did put my name in for a couple of committees. However, I also, with an asterisk, that Commissioner Robinson intends to come back and fill this seat at some point, is our hope, is his hope, I think. But I certainly am willing to serve, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Eggers?
Hey there, thank you. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I also put my name in for a board, and the nominating committee went in a different direction a couple different times now, so I've had my name in for the finance committee for some time, and have offered that, so I'm still available and still offering that. That's my area of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Schulman, I totally concur with the goal of trying to encourage all board members to participate in the committees. The purpose of the committees is truly just to serve and be a benefit to the board. And that being said, all the comments you just heard from some of the members, I mean, it just seems to me like it's an ever-changing roster on the committees, and these vacancies just came up with this Commissioner Jamie Robinson situation, and I think it's probably going to change again, in like a month or something. And I know, like what Commissioner Scott said, that just happened, but I think we'll change. We can look at changing the dates of the committee, the days of the committee. Maybe if that serves the board better, that's totally fine too. So open to changing the committees, or but I think it'll work itself out pretty quickly. It always seems to.
Well, and I appreciate Chair Driscoll's comments while she was not wanting to put words in my mouth. You did a good job of putting words in my mouth. So that's what I was thinking. So I appreciate you're echoing the sentiment that I didn't say. So the goal here wasn't necessarily to call to find out why people aren't serving. It was to implore people to understand the importance of serving on those committees, and especially given the light of potential other actors wanting to change the makeup of this board, and understanding how that impacts the ability of this board to do its work when we have conflicting schedules. I realize that the executive committee took up the appointments. I looked at the minutes from that meeting and believe that they were putting forth the best slate, but I wanted to certainly make sure that before this went through the consent agenda, that anyone who wanted to at this point step up and say, yep, that's something I want to do, I want to be on because it's important for this work, that they had the opportunity to do so. So I know Commissioner Egger says that he was interested in finance. I don't remember what the recommendation was for finance.
Commissioner Reed. Tom Reed.
Okay, so I have a different screen up on my list here. If that's the case, I'd also be willing to step down as an alternate in finance. I'm term limited in 4 months anyway, so. But again, my point is it's important for each of the board members to, again, not only have something to add to those in those meetings, but it makes us a better organization. It makes us more informed and better informed when it comes to making these decisions. So, if it's removing myself from some committees to be able to allow others to serve, I'm happy to do so. I'm also happy to continue to stay. I'm not trying to find my replacement. So, but I did want to give everyone an opportunity to at least weigh in and make sure that they were able to serve in the capacity that they can.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Peters.
Yeah, so I sent an email saying that I could do the legislative committee. However, I have a lot of conflicts on dates, so I wouldn't be able to be present at quite a few of them. So, and the reason I only picked one committee this year is because as chair of the county commission, I'm just really busy. So, so what I'm kind of getting the gist, if Commissioner Eggers had said, and we had, then maybe the communications didn't get to the executive committee when they made the nominations. So I'm really glad you brought this up, and I completely agree with you. I think the more involved we are, the more, more invested we are in the organization. So I think you're absolutely right. I encourage other people to do it rather than having people on 3 and 4 committees. Again, it sounds like we have people that want to do it that aren't on a lot of committees. So I think that we should look at a motion to change that slate. I don't know that you change the meetings and times, because then it might be a problem with other people.
Right.
So I think you just find that replacement. And Commissioner Eggers agreed to go to finance, and you agreed to go to something. And, you know, I worry that the legislative committee, I wouldn't be a great member because of my time constraints. But if nobody else wanted to step up, I'm happy to do that. But I, you know, and I appreciate the people that are willing to work on 3 committees plus this main board, because that is a big time commitment every month to do it. And so I think I completely agree with you, Commissioner, or Mr. Schulman. So, you know, if we can work that out, it sounds like we have at least 2 of the 3 where there's a commitment. I'm happy to take legislative, but again, I know I'll miss at least 2 or 3 months of meetings for the rest of the year.
All right. Thank you. So one thing that could be considered is that those who are on the Finance Committee and maybe have other committee appointments as well, those who are serving on multiple committees could consider offering their spot to Commissioner Eggers, who's willing. That would create a little bit more balance. So just a thought I'm throwing out there as I go to Commissioner Reed.
So I have no problem if, because I'm on quite a few of the committees and I'm on finance. I do know that we discussed this a year ago maybe, that the meetings are open to, anybody can come to any of the meetings and sit in on the meetings, and voice their opinions and so forth at all of the meetings. So even if you're not on a board, as I was told, that you can show up and still be a part of the meeting. But if Commissioner Eggers wants to do finance, I can step down from finance because I'm on planning. I come to both of them anyway. So that would give him finance if he would like to do that. I have no problem with that because I'll still be at both of them, so.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Fig Sanders.
Thank you, and I too am chair of St. Petersburg City Council and understand what that time constraint looks like. And we do have, I'm on 4 committees outside of the board meeting. So the legislative committee, all elected officials should be interested in the legislative committee. And I did step up to take that slot. So I know Commissioner Peters said she couldn't, but those that are interested, I can definitely relinquish that for an opening, because like I stated, I'm on 4, executive planning, legislative, and nominating on top of this board, and I will definitely allow someone, if they are interested in the legislative committee, to assume that position as well. But if not, I will gladly make every meeting as I do, but I just wanted to put that out there, that that's also a consideration. Thank
All
you,
right.
Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Latvala.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Instead of having people step down from committees that obviously want to serve and participate a lot, is it possible to add a couple spots to the committees and just expand them by a couple seats?
I think that would be, Alan, yeah.
Certainly, that's within the control of the board. We would need to do a resolution and amend the rules and regulations, which you adopted to establish the number of members of each of the committees.
Yeah, and that's obviously not a today thing, but
Right.
maybe that's just something that we look at down the road. Yeah.
Okay. Great point. Commissioner Fig Sanders.
Thank you. I have a concern with that because of quorum. And I don't think, you know, people aren't stepping down because they don't want to do it. They're stepping down because we're having a problem getting people to fill those positions. So adding more people, I don't think would fix it. So, I mean, yeah, I have an issue. I'm thinking about quorum and those and establishing that. Because, I mean, I will assume the position, but those that are stepping, well, let me speak for Deborah. Those that are stepping down are doing it just because we know we need to have those numbers there, and adding numbers I don't think would fix it. That's just my 2 cents.
All right. Thank you. Like Alan said, it sounds like there would be, there's an opportunity for a change on another day, and we could do that. So we don't have any more speakers, so given this healthy discussion, I'll entertain any motion that someone wants to make. And it looks like Commissioner Eggers would like to speak.
You know, I just wanted to, piggybacking a little bit on Commissioner Latvala said, I think you still have 5 voting members now and then 1 alternate. We could add an alternate, I would imagine, that it kind of cues people into an area of interest that, you know, kind of lines people up. If somebody wants to step down later or is leaving or whatever, you'll have somebody that's working their way through the system. I know we still have to do a resolution on that, and not for today, but I don't see why having an alternate is a negative thing. You still keeps your 5 people, you still keeps your 5 voting members, so I would support that at some future time. But I would be glad to take that position on the Finance Committee from either Commissioner Schulman or Commissioner Reed, and I appreciate you all offering that.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Reed. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Fig Sanders.
Thank you. So are we going to send this to the nominating committee to discuss or have an executive committee meeting as to the agenda item?
Not my call.
Oh, okay. Whose call?
You can make a motion.
I mean, you could suggest that.
Motion for Eggers to take over. Can we do that now? Make a motion?
Well,
Yeah, but I
have
want
another
to
question on the
let
floor.
Commissioner Fig Sanders
Right.
finish, and then you can.
That one. Okay, sorry.
So I'm trying to see who would be more appropriate to do so, the nominating or the executive?
Well, and I think the rules and regulations now cite this, but it's the nominating committee. And we try to get a nominating committee, and then the regulations allow for, if we can't get a nominating committee scheduled, then we just, and the executive committee is available, they can make a recommendation. It's totally up to the PSTA board.
Okay, because I don't have an issue with adding an additional alternate, because that's not gonna interfere with the quorum. So I guess if we're gonna do a resolution to add the alternate, we would need to send it to the nominating committee. So I think someone wants to make that motion.
I think, so from what I hear, basically you have 3 options. You could regularly bring back a resolution to add alternates to the, committee members. Number 2, you could send it back to the nominating committee to reconsider the nominations that they have in front of you. Or you can go ahead and nominate members of the board to the 3 committees that have openings other than what the committee nominated, or you could accept the committee's nominations or recommendations. Those are basically your options.
Okay. I thought Commissioner, did you?
It did, I think I hit it twice.
Okay, so Commissioner Reed, you were next.
Yeah, is it on?
Wait.
It's on?
There.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that, we appoint Commissioner Eggers to the Finance Committee in my spot.
And approve the entire thing with that change?
And approve,
The all committee appointments with it?
are we gonna do, I don't know if, and approve the entire 4C, the committee changes as it is, the rest of it, sorry.
Is that good enough?
Because I don't think Haley's ready yet.
Did you
Well,
need us to
I'm just-
reword, did you need that
You know
to be
what?
No, I think-
reworded?
No.
I think everyone understands.
Is that
what
all
the-
right, how it is? I was doing that one because I knew that was a given. I wasn't sure if we were doing something else because we'd spoke about appointing him also to a board also. So I knew it. Commissioner Eggers was, I'm doing that one, so I didn't know if there was more.
So currently, the motion on the floor is to approve the proposed slate of committee appointments with the change of replacing Commissioner Patty Reed on the Finance Committee with Commissioner Dave Eggers.
Yes.
And we will go to Commissioner Peters.
So, and I'm sorry, Johnson. So I guess what I'm surprised about is if he replaced Jamie, why didn't he take Jamie's committees? because that wouldn't have made a vacancy unless those committees didn't work for you, schedule-wise. But if you've got a member that's not on a committee that wants to be on a committee, I think to Mr. Schulman's point, we should engage him versus giving somebody who's on numerous committees, right? So the slate that was presented has Jeff Gow and Deborah Fig Sanders, let me get that right up. You both are on, very dedicated on many committees. So if you're interested in the executive committee, where, or the legislative committee, then we've engaged another board member to the point that was brought up to begin with. And I'm not sure of the other board members that aren't on, and Mr. Reed's an alternate, so that kind of gets us where we want to go if we keep Mr. Reed on there, and if we engage him on the executive committee, and if there's somebody else that's not on any committees that want to go on the legislative committee, I think that's really would, to me, help get board members invested into this organization more. And so I think that's the reason why Mr. Schulman brought this up in the first place, and I completely agree with that. So I wouldn't support that motion for the very reason that we're not, we've got Mr. Eggers now, I think, we've got Mr. Reed is in that nomination, and then if we have this gentleman here too, I mean, that's getting us where we want to go. That's, so I wouldn't support that motion, because unless we amend that motion to include him being on the executive committee, and then legislative, if somebody else wanted to step up, that would be wonderful. Like I said, I would, but I know I'm going to miss at least half of the meetings for the rest of the year, and so I just don't know that I'd be valuable at this point. So that's kind of my thought. I'd be happy to, if the maker of the motion would consider an amendment to it, I think that would be a great amendment, but I'm not sure if we're done with the conversation yet, so.
That's why I was leaving it
Thank
open.
you, and, thank you, and I think I want to clarify, I believe it was stated earlier that Commissioner Johnson was hesitant to serve on committees simply because it is seeing his seat as temporary because of the situation with Mr. Robinson. And I'm going to skip around just to allow Commissioner Johnson to respond.
Yeah, and again, nothing certain, I'm not positive that, he's up, Commissioner Robinson's up for election this year as well. So, I may be permanent, so I'm happy to serve. I volunteered to serve on multiple committees. I did ask some questions about when they met, just so I could clear things with my schedule, because I travel quite a bit for work, so.
Thank you, thank you. I am not sure that a discussion this extensive really needs to stay on the dais. And so without being able to make a motion, I want to offer that there is the option to send this back to committee to work it out and bring us something that we can vote on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, my thing is really messed up here. I don't have anyone requesting to speak, so if someone is.
I did request to speak.
Josh wanted to speak.
And so did
Okay, Commissioner Schulman, I know you had yours on earlier. This is just not lining up right now.
Understood, and I appreciate it. There's a lot of sausage being made here, so.
Yes.
Good show for the public. So I'm in favor of the motion presented by Commissioner Reed with, to approve the slate, take her off of finance, add Commissioner Eggers to finance, with the addition of sending the rest of it back to the nominating committee. So the nominating committee can determine whether we want to add an alternate, so everyone has a chance to submit an interest, as well as also committees like that they'd be willing to remove themselves from to make a spot for somebody else. There's a lot of moving pieces that we don't know all that information. So the reason why I'm interested in necessarily moving forward with the slate as approved with the addition is these committees still have to work, right? So we're gonna have the nominating committee needs to meet, then the board needs to come and it'll be 2 months before we get that figured out. Let's get these things moving for the next couple of months, give the nominating committee a chance to do its work, and then come back with a a more expansive slate. That would be my only change to Commissioner Reed's motion.
Thank you. So is it enough for him to offer a friendly amendment?
Yeah, you can offer it.
You could offer that as a friendly amendment?
Very friendly.
So friendly.
I mean, or the
Please,
motioner
please,
can.
please, with the cherry on top.
The motioner can accept that change and the seconder.
Don't do it.
I accept the friendly motion change by Commissioner Schulman.
And then ask the second if she
And
accepts.
I accept it as well.
Okay, so then
The
that's,
second, so we have,
you want to restate that for,
all right, so now the motion as amended that's on the floor is to approve the proposed slate of committee appointments with the exception of the exchange of Commissioner Patty Reed for Commissioner Eggers on the Finance Committee, and for the slate to then be sent to the nominating committee for further discussion on additional changes. Is that, I have. Are you okay? Okay, I have technical issues with the the request to speak, so I can see that Commissioner Eggers would love to speak, and so I'm calling him next.
Okay. I am really happy to serve, so that's, we're fine. And we're talking about
That's
sending
fine.
everything back. So everybody's talking about schedule, so I just wanted to make sure that my schedule was good, and it is, except the very first one that I'm supposed to be at.
Oh, geez.
We have our budget workshops that first one, so I'm sorry. We have our county budget workshops that morning, start at 9 o'clock.
We have
so-
alternates, so it's fine.
So we have an
Maybe you can
alternate?
increase an alternate.
Okay, we'll just leave it alone.
It
That's
wasn't-
fine, just leave it alone. We'll
Thank
go-
you.
We'll do it and.
Okay.
Any additional requests to speak?
Yeah, we good.
We have a motion and a second. Open up that machine for voting, please. If all board members will please cast
I'm a
your
yes.
votes. If your button's not working, let Rachel know.
Yes. The yes button isn't available.
What does that say, really? The motion passes. Thank you, everyone. I can't wait to hear what happens in committee on that one.
Me too.
Speaking of committees, we're going to go next to our committee updates. And first, we're going to hear from our track chair, Mark O'Hara. Hopefully, he's hanging in there with us. Is he actually here today? Oh, let him know he's on. Okay, so while we're waiting on Mark, after he's finished, we're going to receive an LCB update from Commissioner Patty Reed, followed by me with the Ford Pinellas report. And I will be introducing Ford Pinellas Executive Director Whit Blanton, who has a presentation for us today on the Forward Pinellas Long Range Transportation Plan.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
And so, yes, we will, we're going to flip things around and start with the Ford Pinellas report. I'll give mine while that's coming up. The Ford Pinellas Board met on May 8th, 2024. The board approved the FY 25 to 26 Unified Planning Work Program, which is a 2-year plan that identifies an MPO's transportation planning activities and the associated funding. The board affirmed support of the Complete Streets 34th Street Bus and Turn Lanes project, which also includes widened sidewalks and new safety measures. The board was provided with a presentation from FDOT about alternatives that could be considered for the US 19 North Corridor and described the process for selecting a preferred alternative. The intent is to improve highway capacity while also providing safe accommodations for bikes, pedestrian, and transit rider access. And the visibility of local businesses. It was a great meeting. The next board meeting for Forward Pinellas will be held on June 10th, 2024. And with that, I will turn things over to Whit with his presentation.
While we're getting there, I'll just note that June 10th is a Monday, so normally we meet on a Wednesday. But that's because of your budget information session, Commissioner. We know what trumps, but we're happy to have the meeting on Monday. So we'll get the agenda out a little sooner. Good morning. I'm Whit Blanton. I'm the Executive Director, and today I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the partnership we have with PSTA and how we work together to advance transportation projects. And just I'll set a little context. It's been a while before I've been before this board, but I want to talk about our Advantage Pinellas 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan, because that is really the backbone of everything we do when it comes to advancing transportation projects. If we want to use federal and state dollars on any transportation project, it needs to be recognized in the long-range plan. And if there are local transportation projects that we can recognize in the long-range transportation plan, then we can augment local dollars with federal and state to make those projects whole. You all know about this. I could say the cliche that we're a peninsula on a peninsula, but we are growing as a county. We're adding about 120,000 new residents over the next 20 years or so, and about 80,000 additional jobs. And we arrived at that number by working very closely with all the local governments in Pinellas County to identify what's in their comprehensive plans, what's in their future land use, and what they are seeing on the ground in terms of redevelopment and new development happening in the county. And we actually had a lower population projection until we met with them individually, and then we had to revise that upwards a little bit. So we are growing as a county. There are some key trends and issues that I'd like to just highlight that I think are important for this 2050 long-range plan. One is a need for strengthened regional transit service as the Tampa Bay region grows, adding population to reach roughly 5 million people in the next so many years. There is a proposal to bring the Brightline higher speed rail service from Orlando to Tampa. That will induce a lot of interest in connecting to that, however we choose to do so. So that could be an important catalyst. Amtrak has also expressed an interest in developing better service between the Tampa market and the Orlando market and points north. Maintaining a statewide lead in higher wage target employment opportunities. You may recall that a year or so ago, we updated our target employment industrial lands project. That has enabled a little bit more density and intensity and mix of uses in our target employment centers, and that's an important consideration for us to plan for. Tourism growth continues to be very strong. We just got more information on that. And ensuring that as tourists come here, whether they be overnight visitors and guests or if they're day trippers, that we have a transportation network that can support and sustain that growth, and getting employees, workers, to their jobs who serve that industry. Housing supply and costs, it's not lost on anybody here that's been through the roof, literally. And the need to provide more housing supply in the appropriate locations is key to that. And that's a big part of our housing compact that we have with Pinellas County and several other jurisdictions to develop a housing action plan that has a number of tools and initiatives to increase that supply. Technology continues to be an important thing that we look at very carefully. It has the potential to add different mobility options. I've just been reading a lot about advanced air mobility as an emerging technology that we may see in the next decade or so, and then being able to adapt ourselves for resilience and looking at alternative energy uses as well. And then I'm sure you're familiar with our efforts to better coordinate regional transportation planning with our partners in Hillsborough and Pasco. And we are making, I think, very good progress on the potential to form a regional metropolitan planning organization in this area. I've been kind of spearheading that effort with the development of a memorandum of understanding that has now been adopted by all the 3 MPOs, and we have submitted a report to the governor and legislature outlining the process for doing that. And we've had some very productive conversations at the TMA leadership group. The last meeting that we just had, I think we found some consensus on the size of the board. I think we found consensus on the role of transit operators and the role of some of our regional transit providers, such as the Tampa International Airport and the Port Tampa Bay. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about Ford Pinellas and what we do, but just a reminder, we are two separate legal agencies, one that handles countywide land use planning and makes recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on land use cases, and then the MPO, which is the final stop for approving transportation projects that are funded by the state of Florida and advanced with state and federal funding. We have a board that is currently 13 members. We have submitted an apportionment plan to the governor that would expand that board to 19 members, which would add an additional seat for this Pinellas County and for the city of St. Petersburg, and reduce some of our rotating seats. So that gets us 19 seats. There would also be a new seat for Tarpon Springs, and Clearwater would get a second seat. The partnership is really why I'm here with PSTA, and I think it is certainly considered a best practice in the state of Florida, and we've worked real hard to make it so. That wasn't always the case. When I first started working here in the late 1980s, we were going in different directions. The MPO had a monorail plan. PSTA was not involved in that, really, and it's not good to develop plans that are on separate paths. So we try to really align our efforts as best as possible by meeting every couple of weeks and having good dialogue and participating in each other's planning activities. The things that we are most focused on right now is in our long-range transportation plan, we are developing a transit system plan that is complementary to the community bus plan that PSTA is working on. And they're distinct because we have different time horizons. Ours is 20 to 25 years and focused on land use and redevelopment opportunities, because if you're not creating a walkable environment, it's going to be tough for public transportation to succeed. If you're not developing faster, more efficient types of service that connect our region better, it's going to be tough for public transportation to succeed. And those are the areas where we're focused. And the community bus plan is more of a 5 to 10 year operations-focused plan that complements and feeds into that. You all know that we have been working on the Alt-19 corridor planning effort. We developed a fairly high-level redevelopment and transportation strategy for the Alt-19 corridor from Clearwater down to St. Petersburg. PSTA is now working on a more detailed, refined transit operations strategy for that corridor. And again, that'll come back and we'll make sure those efforts are integrated. From a land use strategy standpoint, we are really working around key areas in the county, such as the 22nd Street station for the Sunrunner, where we are looking at transit-oriented development, working with the city of St. Petersburg to advance that, so that we have, over time, the ridership built in to the development pattern to support and sustain services like Sunrunner and other express services. We've been prioritizing capital investments for PSTA, including bus replacements and electric vehicle charging facilities. There's about $1.5 million every year that we allocate through our transportation improvement program to PSTA for that effort. We've also been a key stakeholder in the community bus plan, and we've been collaborating on waterborne transportation together. We were successful in being awarded about a $650,000 grant from the state, and we are continuing to work on those efforts. We will be conducting a waterborne transit market research study to really look at what is the demand, what are the factors that influence waterborne transportation, and that'll influence how that service eventually evolves as a form of public transportation or more efficient transportation. Just real quickly, the Advantage Alt-19 plan has been a robust public outreach effort to engage the cities and communities along that corridor. And we are now working on the implementation stage with the city of Largo on some station area planning for their sections of the Alt-19 plan. And again, it takes these kind of partnerships between our agency, PSTA, and the local government to advance any transportation project for funding. In 2020, we adopted the Gateway Area Master Plan, which is a large area covering about 30 square miles. Transportation is key to that success of the Gateway Master Plan as places like Carillon City Center emerges and the county relocates its buildings to the ICOT Center in the next several years. We want to make sure that there's ways for employees and customers to access those locations. And right now, they're pretty scattered and spread out, and transit and good transportation planning can bring those together in better alignment. I mentioned the Sunrunner Rising station area plan for 22nd Street. There is a whole series of transit-oriented development plans along that corridor, and I'm really happy that the city of South Pasadena reached out to us recently to begin working with us on a transit-oriented development plan for the stations that they have in their community. So it takes that sort of initiative from local governments, and we're happy to step forward and assist them in that effort. So our long-range transportation plan is something that we are required to update every 5 years or adopt every 5 years. It gives us the opportunity to go back and look at employment and population trends, demographic factors. We had a big thing that happened since we adopted our last plan in 2019. It was called the pandemic that changed travel patterns, and so this is really an opportune time for us to revisit how we look forward in terms of transportation in the area. This is certainly a multi-agency effort, and we've been doing a ton of outreach lately. I was just in Tarpon Springs last night trying to get some feedback from them on the future of US 19 through that part of the county. This really focuses on how we tie land use and transportation together in our county and support continued economic growth in our area for everyone. Transportation projects, as I said, have to be included in this plan to be eligible for funding. Just real quickly on the timeline here, we have to adopt this plan in October. So coming in for a landing here in the fall will be our cost feasible plan, where we look at anticipated revenues from everything from impact fee revenues and local gas taxes to the funds we get from state and federal sources, and projecting those over the year 2050. And what we do is we don't just look at the year 2050, we look at bands of 5-year increments, and then we identify transportation projects that can be funded in those 5-year groupings based on the revenue that's coming. And we have to think about the phases of transportation, whether it's design, right-of-way acquisition, or construction. And as you all know, it takes a while. So it can be 7 to 10 years from concept to construction. And that means we have to stay with our commitments as we move forward as best as possible. It also means we have to do a good job of keeping the public informed as we go along on that. One thing that we've been doing in our outreach is we've been trying to meet people where they are at events, at community forums, neighborhood meetings. We also did a statistically valid community survey, and I'd like to just highlight that a little bit. It was a random sample of Pinellas County residents. We had pretty high confidence in those results, and the big takeaway is that people want more transportation options, and they want safer streets. People are concerned about congestion, but they are also, they want more options for how they get around. So 70% of respondents said that they would like lower speeds for safer streets, and that's up from 57% when asked the same question in 2018. And I think the pandemic did a real number on our safety statistics. We've seen crashes and fatalities kind of escalate from 2020 through 2022. They're starting to get back to normal, but I think that was a bit of a shock to the system, and maybe reflected here. Having a variety of land uses within a 10-minute walk is, according to 70% of our respondents, the most ideal neighborhood. And I think that is a reflection of Pinellas County because our advantages of having so many cities and communities, there's a lot of walkable places, and people really value that, whether it's Tarpon or Gulfport or Safety Harbor or Dunedin. 20% of our respondents said they would never take transit, but nearly 50% would if it would get them around more quickly and efficiently. So I think there's a willingness to use public transit, but it's got to be right for them. And that's pretty consistent with surveys I've seen throughout my career. In the abstract, people like it, people want to have the option, but then you start getting specifics, and is it frequent enough? Is the hour, are the hours convenient? How many times do you have to transfer? Then that has to get factored into it. But overall, people want options, and so we take this as a pretty good indicator because it mirrors a lot of the survey findings we had in 2018 as well. So our next steps in the Advantage Pinellas plan is to develop our priorities and work plan for the next 5 years. That'll be on our June agenda. So we'll be asking the board to adopt this year's round of priorities. And then based on the draft tentative work program, we'll adopt a new 5-year transportation improvement program. And I want to say something about our TIP. What we put in our TIP are projects. We don't put roads, we don't put cities in there. We have a specific defined project that we fund. And we work really hard to define that project and get support for that project. Sometimes elections change and we have to pivot and see if we can come up with an alternative project. But if we can't come up with an alternative project that meets the purpose and need of what we prioritized, then we have to think of a plan B for where that money might go. So it's really important for us to work with our local governments to really define those projects as best we can. Certainly, we have flexibility as we get into the design phase, but defining that project makes it a priority, and that's what makes it a funding project. With the adoption of the long-range plan, the next step is to really build that financially feasible plan. That's what we'll be bringing to the board in draft form in July, and then again for September, and then we'll be asking for adoption of the plan in October. And again, this is kind of the big picture framework for how we then drill down into what's the next 5 years of capital projects or operating projects, if the case may be. And I want to stress also that every one of these projects usually requires some local commitment for funding, whether it be for operating or some share of the capital cost. In the case of PSTA, it's going to be operating dollars because the federal government typically does not provide that for transit service, especially in urban areas like ours. They do a little bit in rural areas. And then the state has very limited dollars available for operating. So that's really the challenge that we have in building a better mousetrap here for transit is coming up with the operating dollars. The capital, I think we can generally provide at a regular pace. So I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be here before the board and just sort of reinforce how we work together. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them for me today.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? All right, well, I think one of the reasons that your projects have been so successful and Ford Pinellas has been so strong and PSTA has been, successful and strong is because you guys are working together. And having the two entities looking for ways to help each other and partner is really a key, especially when our county is growing, our tourism is growing. You all are really there to help us with smart growth, and I, for one, really appreciate that.
Great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks for letting me be here today.
All right, thank you. Have we had Mark O'Hara rejoin us, or?
He's on
Okay.
Zoom.
What we'll do
He's not on Zoom?
is, what we'll do is defer that particular report to the next meeting, and he can double up and give us a supersize update next time. So for now, we'll go to Commissioner Patty Reed and the local coordinating board update.
Thank you. The local coordinating board met on May 21st, 2024 in downtown Clearwater. The local coordinating board, LCB, reviewed and approved the grievance procedure, rate model, TD agencies, and updates to the TD service plan. Staff from the Florida Agency for Persons with Disabilities gave an informative presentation about their services, including how they work with transportation for those they serve. PSTA's Ross Silvers presented an update on TD Tampa Bay and the TD Commission's Innovative Service Development Grant, which funds it. The members were excited to see the success and growth of the service, with continued funding expected for the next year. The next LCB meeting will take place on September 17th at 9:15 a.m.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right, terrific. We'll now move to our action items. We have one for today, and that's on our partnership policy. So Amanda Baird, PSTA's Director of Communications and Marketing, will walk us through this action item that we went through at the board budget workshop last month. Hi, Amanda.
Good morning. Amanda Baird, Director of Communications and Marketing. Really pleased to come before you. Once again, I want to thank you all for putting on your improv theater hats with me at the board workshop and go through that role-playing exercise where we discussed this action item. So the action item is to adopt an official policy for marketing and promotional partnerships with major events and destinations throughout the county, ensuring that we only enter these partnerships if X is greater than Y. X being the value that PSTA receives in terms of advertising, promotion, and sponsorship value, which is greater than Y, the expense and effort that we provide. So this initial draft was before you in the board workshop. It has been updated since the board workshop with some of your feedback. This was brought before the executive committee where we discussed it, and it was approved unanimously. So I'm happy to take any questions on this policy at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll be honest, I expected for years that we've been doing this already, right? That at the executive level here with Brad, that he's been looking at different opportunities and saying, what are we getting, what are we giving, and looking at the net positive. What I was hoping to see was a bit more of a scorecard, like we have in other parts of our agency, that lists out different aspects, whether it's, clicks or impressions or number of people in attendance. And so we're assigning those values at the board level, or at least reviewing them at the executive committee and saying, this is the metrics that we want to use, and then applying those to particular events, and then coming back at the end of the event and saying what happened, right? How many impressions online were there? How many people attended? So that we can then judge and use that as a way to build and understand the costs and value that we're providing. So I'm appreciative of the notion, but I was hoping to see a little bit more of a scorecard or detailed metrics that we could use.
We are doing that a bit at the staff level, just as we're entering these discussions with these events, myself and my team. And each of those individual events has obviously very different sponsorship packages, very different attendance, very different offerings. So that's it. So we are creating kind of that scorecard that X and Y on an event by event basis is kind of how we've been handling it.
Right, and I felt that at least, and I don't necessarily want to speak for the rest of the board, but from my perspective, one of the issues we had was it felt like the board didn't have a say in how and when we were going to provide the value that PSTA brings to any particular group, organization, or event. And so that's what led to this. Well, let's create metrics. Let's create a system by which we know that these things are being uniformly applied, and then when they're not quite fitting into that, then it comes back to the board for okay, that makes sense, or nope, we don't want to do it. So when it's vague like this, I don't know if it captures that board intent of oversight for what events we're helping to sponsor. So, I would prefer to see, whatever the metrics may be, and every event may not have them, right? But let's get the main ones, or the main 5, 10, whatever those are, and determine what those are, have the board be happy with how we're judging each one of those metrics. And then, from my perspective, it's easier than to hand that over and say to administration to then proceed.
Brad.
Mr. Schulman, that's a good thought. Again, you're correct. The purpose of the policy was based on the board sentiment, wondering if we were doing this. We were doing this maybe on an informal basis, of course, because we want to make sure that any partnership we enter benefits PSTA. This requires us to put it all in writing and do this monetary calculation that you're describing, and as Amanda's describing. My thought generally was that we would do these calculations now per the policy, and then like you're suggesting, after the fact, show these to the board and show and be able to document. Okay, this is how this benefited the organization. I don't know if you're suggesting that we would come before the board continually.
No.
Every time before the event, or?
No. What I was thinking was the board say, we agree to the metrics, just like we do with evaluation of departments and divisions here, like goals and things are assigned, and points are assigned, and then whether they meet those or not, they then earn those points. So if it's attendance, let's say, right? The value to PSTA is 10 cents for every person that attends. So if it's 1,000 people, then it's $100, right, of value, right? So, but we assign that value, impressions, clicks, advertising, these all have, we could take average values of what these things are worth in the marketplace. And then each event gets applied what it actually is going, how it's going to relate to that. So my thought was just coming up with that specific scorecard in advance, so that the metrics themselves aren't changing each time. Well, this time it's worth this much, and this time it's worth that. The base multiplier is the same for all events, and just being consistent across the board.
That's a good point. I mean, I think, Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, but those values are sort of standard.
Yeah, they are. On the PSTA side, we do use standard values provided to us by the finance team to calculate the value of ridership, fare revenue, things like that. And then the organization, event, destination, whatever it may be, that they present us with their sponsorship package, what they would charge cash value for whatever it is that they're able to bring to the table. So that the target kind of moves from event to event. Obviously, a smaller event versus a major event like the Grand Prix, they're going to have very different offerings, they have very different tools in their toolbox. So.
Well, and I agree with that, but someone seeing an ad for an event that PSTA is involved with online has a particular value from a marketing perspective. The number of people attending an event is the number of people seeing PSTA buses providing that service, is the number of people attending and coming to a booth and learning about our services. That has, so a bigger event will have more value by doing that. I just wanted to make sure that we're not changing how valuable each individual impression is based on the event. The only thing that changes is the number of people that see it or are engaged in that activity. And a lot of our other departments are very scorecard based.
Yes.
Right, so, and even our capital projects and other things, we have these metrics that we're using, and that's just what I envisioned being in this particular item, was outlining the different marketing values, assigning them, and then applying them to any event that comes across.
Move approval.
All right, we have a motion for approval and
Second.
a second. Commissioner Eggers, you no longer have comment?
I just have one quick comment. And I talked with Brad yesterday at some length at trying to define what you were getting at. And so, don't get used to it, but I kind of agree with Commissioner Schulman on this. No, I'm kidding you, I'm joking. But I do agree. I think understanding some of those metrics ahead of time and being able to monitor that from project to project, I think is helpful. So, so Brad, all the things that I was struggling coming up with, I think was stated here today. So
Well,
I appreciate that.
And maybe I didn't state my thing, but my understanding is the things that you're talking about, Commissioner Schulman, about like clicks and attendance and views of whatever, those kinds of things are sort of PR media standard, and we.
Yeah.
I can provide that to the finance committee, or we can provide the sort of the metrics that we will use, like a kind of like a scorecard. But it's basically, to your point, we're not making them up for every different event. We're using sort of the standard value for different things, and then that's what Amanda was trying to explain too, like, converting everything to dollars, about like, if there's fares involved, or things like that, we can put all that down as sort of this is the, these are the values that we're going to attribute to future partnerships. We can do that as an attachment to our great little policy we've got here.
Good idea. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with pretty much everything that's been said thus far. I mean, X greater than Y, I mean, is that $1 greater than Y, or rider greater than Y? I mean, what exactly are we measuring there?
Dollars.
And how many of these on average do we typically get a year?
Not many. We kind of enter these partnerships on an ad hoc basis. There are some that are recurring each year, things like the Grand Prix that we know are coming to Pinellas County. We start those talks fairly early. And then we have some that randomly approach us. The circus came to town, Cirque du Soleil approached us. They're like, hey, we're at the Trop, let's figure something out. We did a very micro version of this involving no fair promotion, just.
Right.
So it's kind of on a case by case. We have some that we know are recurring and we have some that are kind of on a case by case basis. I would say that's maybe a dozen a year. And the intent behind X and Y is that they would be dollar values.
And I'm just kind of wondering if there's a certain dollar value that should become before the board for approval, so we can weigh in on that and understand what those metrics look like on the front end. Would be,
I think that's a good idea.
you know, kind of what I would kind of offer is maybe, I don't know what dollar value that should be at this point, but I would think that that might be something good for the board to have a say in on the front end. So I would.
I mean, right now we have the $100,000 threshold, but we could use that or something.
I would think that these would probably be a lot lower.
They are usually
These are significantly lower, yeah.
I was, maybe the total, I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of my thought. I don't really know what that number should be, because I'm not sure where these sponsorships typically kind of fall, but I think, I mean, this is a good start, I think, but I think it could be a little bit better for the board to have some oversight and understanding of, you know, where those, you know, where that X and Y matrix is.
We can certainly provide those reports, either before the event or shortly after the event, because sometimes we do get media stories that get picked up. Those obviously have advertising value equivalency dollars that can be ascribed to them, that those stories don't run until the event has happened, kind of thing, so.
Commissioner Petrilla.
Thank you, Chairman. I think to Amanda's point, and she did a good job at the workshop, kind of laying out exactly what Commissioner Egner is asking you about, which is, there was a summary, right? We're getting a booth, we're getting this, we're getting this, we're getting this. In return, we're giving up free ridership, and this is going to cost us $5,000. We're getting $10,000 worth of services. And I think what this does over here, it actually just gives us a summary, right? We're giving this, we're getting that, right? I think it's hard to do what you're asking for in the front end just because one event may have a booth, another one may not have a booth, right? So I think what the staff is proposing here is to give us some leeway. As long as we're getting greater value than what we're giving, right, allow us to move forward with this. But I do think what you're asking for is valuable, but maybe more on the hindsight part, right? How did this event work out, right? We thought we were getting X in value, and that was one of the conversations we had. Okay, if we gave up, free ridership and we had, 5,000 riders that day, what did that cost us versus what did we get in return? And then maybe after a few of those events having those summaries, then we can maybe make changes and suggestions, amendments based on the actual data of what it looked like in the past. I think it's hard doing that going forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Schulman?
Yeah.
Did you?
So it is a little bit more difficult going on the front end, not impossible. I mean, businesses and organizations decide how to spend their marketing dollars and resources all the time. So that information is there. The whole point, and this came up to the board originally because we were talking about whether or not different organizations should be supported or whatnot. If we're always doing a back-end analysis, it's always after the fact that we're not able to weigh in on whether or not that was working on the onset. So to Commissioner Scott's point, I don't know if we needed. So I didn't want to have a dollar threshold. What I wanted to say is, as a board, we agree to these metrics. These are how we want to judge things. That is our way of having oversight at the onset, and then allow Brad and the administration to do their work, because these things can come up very quickly, right? And so they can't necessarily come back to us in time to get something done. But we expressed that we didn't have an opportunity to have a say. So that was my point, is let's have a say, but let it be on the general metrics. And if there needs to be something that's outside of that because it really is valuable to us as an organization, then it can be a footnote and comes back after the fact. But I feel like if we're doing this, which again, I already expected we were, right? That we were looking at it as an organization and being net positive. I don't think it addresses the original concerns that we had as a board about having oversight and say over which organizations, or how and when we offer partnerships with other organizations.
Thank you. I agree with Commissioner Petrilla that what's important here is X is greater than Y. How you get there, I don't really feel like that is necessary for the board to micromanage. I do like the idea of having a matrix, having a scorecard. It's a great way to do it, and maybe you do have one and you just didn't include it in the presentation today. The only thing that I might entertain is if you have a situation where X is not greater than Y. Not that we have to approve it, because again, as someone mentioned, these things can come up very quickly. We don't want to miss opportunities to create good partnerships and get something that is valuable for the organization, and let our board meeting schedule get in the way of that. So,
I mean, the policy specifically says any partnership that is not, where X is not greater than Y, it would have to come back for board approval.
okay, so I can go along with that, but, I mean, it's really not hard to have a policy that says X is greater than Y and follow that. I love that you're going to be doing the homework and that you guys already look at what are we getting in return. I think it's great. I think maybe the most I would want is like once a year, tell us about some of the partnerships that have been formed and how that has benefited the organization. That's all I need personally. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
There you go.
As this is written, I'm not going to support it, not because I think we do need a policy, and I think this is a really, really good start, and I appreciate the staff effort on this. I would just like to understand how we're going to score it going in. But I appreciate the work that's been done on this, but as it is written, I'm just not going to support it. Just wanted to explain that.
Okay.
Thank you. Did we already have a motion on this and a second? Seeing that there's no request for further discussion, let's go ahead and open the voting machine. Board members, please enter your votes. It's not working. I can.
There you go.
There we go. No. Somebody change their vote.
That's weird. Oh, my goodness, our tech today is awful. Is this accurate? Does anyone see that the vote that is on the screen is not the vote that they cast?
There's only 12
And we're missing Commissioner Petrilla.
It's a yes?
Yes or no?
It's a yes.
Commissioner Petrilla is a yes, the motion passes.
Whew. Back again.
Where's IT?
Thank you. Let's,
I saw you, and then I was like.
okay,
We'll give it to Lester.
yes. We'll do it next time.
Okay.
We already decided we're going to double up next time.
Yeah.
But please pass, Mark, if you can hear us, thank you for all you do. We're moving on to our information items, and item 7A, the Capital Improvement Program. Debbie Laus, the PSTA Chief Financial Officer, and several others will take us through PSTA's draft FY 2025 to 2030 Capital Improvement Program. Hi, Debbie.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to tell you of an information item about our capital improvement program. And the capital improvement program is focused around three main areas. One is making sure that our transit assets are maintained in a state of good repair. And for those that have exceeded their useful life and are no longer viable, that we replace them. So that's our normal replacements. In addition, we have new initiatives. Now, the good news, the thing I like about this slide, is that about 99% of our capital improvement program is grant funded. Now, how does one get on the list for grant funding? Well, as we were just talking about, on a scorecard basis, we have a very comprehensive prioritization process that takes a look at the project and compares it to our goals and our strategic plan here at PSTA. Every project has to go through this. And as you recall at our first workshop, there were some suggestions made to improve this scorecard, and we have already incorporated it. Today, you're going to be hearing from several of my colleagues about the top 3 projects that we have, and also some new initiatives and some normal replacements. So with that, I'm going to turn it over for our top project to Abhishek Dayal.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. I'm Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management, and I'm going to kick things off with our number 1 priority on our CIP, which is the Clearwater Transit Center project. Now, you've heard me speak about the need for this project. This is classified under a replacement because we are replacing our aging Park Street Terminal project, and this, we believe, will be a massive improvement for what our riders have to experience today at the Park Street Terminal. We did talk the board did take several action items on regarding this project, and I will be coming back to the board in a few months for a contract modification for our design consultant for this project. So I just wanted to give a heads up on this project and why this is top of our list for the project. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amanda.
Hello again, Amanda Baird, Director of Communications Marketing. Long time no see. Number 2 on our capital improvements capital project list is our website. Silver medal on the list, gold medal for marketing and communications. Our website has served us valiantly since 2017. So like any other piece of technology or equipment, it has reached its useful life. We are currently in the process of an RFP to redesign and rebuild our website. You should expect award recommendations as soon as next month. We are undergoing this project for a few core reasons, first of which is technology needs for off-site hosting and simplified back-end maintenance, both of which are resiliency and security measures. Second, of course, is our communications and branding needs. Our website is our most visible asset right after our buses on the street, and it is where folks go to get their information about PSTA programs and services. So making sure that the information architecture on our website is improved, that search engines are serving our website as the top result on any queries related to PSTA services, and just making sure that we're getting the right message to the right people at the right time. Last but not least, user experience is a major priority for this design build process, and that's not just for our riders, who are our largest target audience, of course, and about 70% of our website traffic is on mobile devices, largely out at bus stops in the field, I would imagine, while people are trying to pull up schedules. But also making sure that all of our community partners, all of our community stakeholders, all of our elected officials at every level are able to find the information that they're looking for on our website. So with that, I'll turn it over to Henry.
So as part of our vehicle replacement plan, the board approved the purchase of 60 new transit buses. These new buses will go on to replace the 60 oldest buses in our fleet, which are 20 years old and have well over 1 million miles on them. And obviously, a new bus has reduced operating costs as opposed to something that has well exceeded its useful life. Status to date, 8 have been delivered. 6 are currently in service. You can catch them on the 19 and other various PSTA routes. And the remaining 52 will be arriving in groups throughout this calendar year and with the last few by the end of 2025. And I'll turn it to Akshay.
Again, good morning. So this project here, this is the first project classified under new initiatives section of our CIP, and that's the new Sunrunner station that will be building close to the downtown St. Pete, close to the pier. This project was made possible because of the savings that we realized on the Sunrunner project. So we will be coming back in the next couple of months for 2 action items for your consideration. Number 1 would be a construction management task order that the board previously had approved with HDR to oversee the construction.
More infrastructure is having your city's or your town's planning department or engineering department or development review committee reach out. So some of our superstars in that regard are City of St. Pete, Pinellas County, Largo, and Dunedin. So they're currently getting more reviews than any of the others simply because they asked. So I would ask that of you. If you can plug them into PSTA, we are happy to review those projects. Currently, we review over 80 projects a year from FDOT and Pinellas County, and that is the best way for efficiencies to get more infrastructure. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kessia.
Good morning, Chair, board members. My name is Kessia Harris, Director of Information Technology. Today, I am here to present to you about a new project which we hope to apply for a grant in the coming months. If you recall last year when we launched open payments, we wanted to make provision for seniors to get discounts using the open payment process, and I'm happy to say that will be possible in the next few weeks. This project will be a second phase to that, which would allow anyone who qualify for a discount the additional option of applying online via a partnership with login.gov. And if we do get awarded that grant, we are hoping to start that project once we get awarded. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Debbie Leas.
Thank you to my colleagues for their presentations. Each of their projects consist of majority of the cost for next fiscal year that we had in our 5-year plan that was currently approved by the board. Next month, I will be coming to you with an information item on our operating budget. And I always make this offer every year, and I'm going to put it out again between now and September when we vote on things. I want to sit down with any of you at any time, any place to go over the details of the budget, answer any questions that you might not feel comfortable bringing up here, or you want to do a deep dive on something. I am happy to do that. I live my life around numbers, and I love my budget season almost as much as I love my annual report season. So both of them come together very nicely, and please make use of myself and my staff to go through that in the next few months. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Is it anticipated that the website rebuild is going to be 100% grant funded or close to it?
Yes.
Okay. Is that state or federal?
And that's federal, and it's around $300,000.
Okay, thank you. And then same question on the solar and the roof replacement. I know that's going to come up for a vote in a couple of months.
That again is federal.
Okay.
Federal Transit Administration.
Got it. Anticipated at 100%?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone. This is a great update. Next item, 7B, Brad will tell us about this presentation on non-member cities and update us on reports and future meeting subjects for PSTA.
Okay, good morning. So in your packet is, I won't go through it, but there is a presentation that I put together 5 years ago, and then I updated for 2024 on a question that came up from some board members at the workshop on the issue that I think most of you are probably familiar with, that not all of Pinellas County property is assessed the PSTA property tax. There are 7 areas of Pinellas County that are not, and then if there's been lots of discussion ever since PSTA was created 40 years ago on what could be done about this. So I've updated the numbers in there. It would generate additional funding. Mr. Zimmett and has informed me that over the last couple of years, the Florida legislature has changed a number of laws regarding special districts so that would make having these communities join PSTA harder, if maybe not, maybe impossible. But it's there for your information. I put this in your packet and presented it for your information as one of the many things that we are trying to take from the workshop that we held on April 27th. And I'm really grateful for all of you who attended that and provided your input at the different tables. We certainly heard the idea of trying to come up with all sorts of ways, creative ideas on generating more revenue for PSTA, whether that be for the purpose of providing more service, for hopefully maybe seeing if we can do some sort of tax rollback perhaps, or other ways in which we can generate more revenue. Idea of these non-member cities came up. The idea on the partnerships, that was totally for that. We will put together a full details so that we can see how much we're generating on the partnerships. And then the third issue that came up was, of course, increasing the fares, or modifying the fares in a way that increased revenue. And so you'll see next month a recommendation. I presented to the planning committee some different options we're looking at, whether it's a fare increase to our base fare of going from $2.25 to $2.50, or perhaps a fare decrease to our base fare from going from $2.25 to $2 to be consistent with the rest of the region, Hart and Pasco as one fare, and just trying to figure out if we could make up in volume by increasing ridership, so that actually generated more money or not. And then I sort of threw out a third option of just completely changing or looking at completely changing the PSTA fare policy, which for a very long time has been to have a relatively high fare, published fare, but then lots of different discounts that we offer. Transportation disadvantaged, UPass, veterans, etc. There's lots of ways to get a discount so that only about half of our ridership are actually paying the full fare. The other half of the ridership is getting some kind of discount or another. And maybe a better way to generate revenue would just be to get rid of all those discounts and just simplify things and charge like $1 or $1.50 for everybody. We're going to look at all those different options and sort of present you a sort of a matrix on what we think might generate the most amount of revenue. I do want to caveat what we're going to say based on our experience that, of course, we don't know. We don't know the answer to that exactly, and so I would like to present to you that whatever we do on the revenue, that we sort of present it to the public as a pilot or as a test that is subject to maybe we might want to change it. If it comes back and it doesn't do what we think it's going to do, then we're able to change it. But that's what you'll see as part of a big presentation. I've had a number of conversations with you since the workshop with additional questions. I think we'll provide sort of obviously a general overview on our revenue of all different kinds, so you can see how this might fit in to our operating budget. But yeah, so we'll look forward to that. That'll be a major topic at the next meetings. Next board meeting, you'll see that. And as Amanda said, we'll probably have the website contractor for a recommendation to the Finance Committee and to the board next month. In your packet is the ridership and other performance reports for the month of March, which we had a big spike in ridership in March, obviously due to spring break. We had a very successful spring break in Clearwater. So you can see that in your packet. I think just a couple other things that I wanted to update the board on. At Your Places, a new partnership. This is also a pilot, but an exciting one. I think this might be one of the only partnerships with a whole neighborhood that I've ever heard of in the transit world, but we're going to test this out. The Kenwood Neighborhood Association in St. Petersburg came to us and suggested, could we arrange a UPass kind of agreement with the neighborhood association? This would be a benefit for folks who pay dues to the neighborhood association, that they would get a card for their household. And we're gonna launch this on Tuesday, June 4th at 10:30 at Seminole Park. You're welcome to join me and the St. Pete City Councilman for that area, Richie Floyd, I think will be there too as well. And so we're excited about that. I think this is sort of a new thing. We've been working hard with the neighborhood association. The neighborhood participants are going to be given a flamingo card that is branded with the neighborhood association little logo you see there with the tree on it. So which is also a new thing for PSDA to especially brand the flamingo card. So every member will tap their card to confirm, but their fare will be paid for by their neighborhood association. So it's sort of an innovative thing we're trying to do. The last thing I would like to introduce our new team member, Miss Katie Rivas, right there. So she's important to all of the board members. We talked about how difficult it is to get schedules. You get emails from her and about quorums and meetings and things like that. So Katie, look for Katie Rivas in your inbox.
And text messages.
And text messages. Okay, good. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you. Oops, shoot. Sorry, I keep doing that. Thank you, Madam Chair. Brad, I have a question on 7B, and this may be more of a question for Alan. And it's the opposite question of members of non-member cities coming into PSDA. But if a current member city municipality wanted to go through the process of asking their voters if they wanted to continue to be a part of PSDA, what does that process look like?
I know I addressed this in a memo some years back. Quite honestly, I don't remember all the steps that need to go through. I'm glad to get that opinion memo out and send out a memo or an email to the board. And but right now, just sitting here, I don't want to misstate.
Got it.
When I did all the research on that, because as I recall, it's not just they take a vote and want to exit PSTA.
Well, you mentioned earlier, or it was you or Brad that said that the process of getting in has gotten more complicated. So the process of getting out may have gotten more complicated as well.
No, the process got more complicated, and I don't know if I used the word as necessarily complicated. There's an additional step now that's definitely required under the bill that was adopted by the legislature this year, and that is the legislature has to approve the additional, the addition of any additional areas to any special district in the state of Florida. So that's why that got a little bit more difficult, or there's another step involved that before was not involved under PSA Special Act. It doesn't address somebody withdrawing from a special district. So I just need to go back and look at that memo that was probably done 5-8 years ago, and because I don't want to misstate something without having thought it through.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Schulman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staying on 7B, I'm flabbergasted that we have a countywide transit system that doesn't include the entire county as contributing members. It does seem like while there are additional steps, that those steps that are outlined in option 2 are possible. Whether they are likely to succeed or not, I wouldn't speak to, but I think it warrants looking at, and I would hope that our county commissioners would look at that possibility. Something that we can do is, I'm looking at the funding potential page, if anyone's looking at the slides, is we have contract funding with those communities that are not members of PSTA to provide transit services. So at a bare minimum, and I've said this a couple of times in the past, we need to look at the dollar amount that we're charging for those contracted services, right? So as to more closely align with that community's equal responsibility to providing transit in the county. Because I can't imagine, to Commissioner Scott's point, do we get to a position where every community then, every city in Pinellas County decides to back out of PSTA and then just pay for contracted services? And I don't think that's a healthy transit system. I don't think that's the direction we want to go, yet we're allowing some communities to do just that, to remain outside of PSTA's purview, and then charge them a service back. So if we can't change the overall taxing nature to make it equitable across the county, then I think we can look at what we're charging those communities for those contracted services.
Great, thank you, great point. Anyone else? Well, I have a question about the neighborhood UPass program. I absolutely love this. I can see it being successful in other neighborhoods, looking to see if they can do it too. I know I've already got one in my district that's asking. Tell me about, are you going to be able to track, since this is a special Flamingo Fairs card with their logo on it, is it coded in some way, not to track people, but just overall?
Yeah.
The number of rides that are taken by the special HKNA Flamingo card.
Yes. Yeah, we'll be able to track total ridership and have that in a report. And then it's also a way to just sort of monitor the dissemination of the cards. If we start seeing a lot of Kenwood riders in Tarpon Springs, we'll know that maybe that card, somebody moved to Tarpon and didn't turn back their card or whatever,
Yeah.
And we can turn it off that way.
Is this a pilot that'll go for 1 year and then
1
look
year.
at it? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Thank you. I'm sorry, I have a conflict and can't attend the launch, but I'm glad that the council member for that district will be there. And I think my legislative aide is going to attend on my behalf, so. It's a great thing, 2 things I love, PSTA and neighborhoods. So, great stuff. Do we have any other business to discuss today? Anyone? Commissioner Latvala?
Sorry about that. Thank you, Madam Chair. I noticed that there was an item that was taken off the agenda, but we received a packet on it, and that had to do with some bus wraps. And I don't follow the legislature as much as I used to. I was thinking that that was not allowed by state law, or at least later on this year, that would not be allowed by state law. So I was just wondering whose idea that was to be placed on the agenda initially, and what is going to be the thinking on that, on those items?
Yeah. Good questions. So in during the legislative session, as you know, as a member of the legislative committee, we had some discussions during the legislative session about the bills that were percolating their way through the legislative session, dealing with bus advertising. And what ultimately passed was simply a restriction on the use of state DOT dollars for bus advertising. That's what passed. And as you know, and as we have talked about before, all of PSTA's advertising bus wraps and advertising on the buses is not paid for by state funds or any taxpayer dollars. It's paid for by the advertising company that puts the ads on, and we actually get a revenue from that, and then they give us buses for free within that program. That law goes into effect on July 1. The law also requires the Florida DOT to come up with advertising regulations related that transit systems must follow. And just in the last week or so, I had conversations with the DOT that they expect to come up with those regulations later this summer. So that is why we had it up. Based on the discussions that happened in the legislative session, we put it on the agenda for the board to approve, and then we took it back off once DOT said that they're about to come out with regulations anyway.
So, and thank you for that. There was one part about it, though, that was concerning, and that was on the back of the bus. It said something along the lines, and I may not have this fully accurate, but there was something in the slide that said tax dollars were not used for this bus wrap.
Yeah.
And my concern is if you put something like that on a bus and say tax dollars not used, for this bus wrap or this advertisement, that assumes that no PSTA staff was involved or staff time, on the taxpayers' dime was used on that. So you didn't talk to the marketing staff on the clock. They weren't talking with businesses on the clock or the different organizations on the clock or anything like that. So, when you bring that back, I would be very concerned with, what kind of language we put on the bus when it talks about tax dollars being used or not used on certain things.
That's a good point. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brad, do we have a sponsorship agreement with Pride this year?
We have some things like that, I think.
Amanda?
Amanda Baird, Director of Communications and Marketing. We do have a partnership agreement. Pride has listed us as the official transportation partner of Pride, and that is because we are offering the park and ride service at St. Pete High and also this year at Tropicana Field.
Does that include free fares?
That was the plan, yes, on specific routes serving those park and ride locations.
Have we put that through we just adopted the partnership policy, but have we put that through this scoring matrix that we haven't seen?
Yes, yes, we've been running those X versus Y calculations. The parking lot at Tropicana Field was donated completely by Tropicana Field, so we're not paying anything for the parking lot there. We are paying, I believe it's $153 to St. Pete High for the use of their lot. And we will be running some additional plug service on the route, on the Sunrunner and on the route serving St. Pete High. So, so I can work on finalizing that X versus Y breakdown spreadsheet and provide that. Yes.
Okay, great, appreciate that. And then like to see what the ridership numbers look like when it's all said
Absolutely,
and done.
we will get those. The parade will take place, with the park and ride, will take place on the Saturday before the June board meeting. So we will have that data as soon as it's available. It just might not be available in that June board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, and thanks to everyone who worked on that partnership and making sure that PSTA is providing that essential shuttle service during St. Pete Pride. It's really a way for us to show our support by doing what we do best, which is provide bus service for people. I received an email on Friday from a St. Pete resident thanking me for being part of PSTA and all that it does to help the community during Pride, both with the free shuttles and, just being there, being in the parade, all of that. And so it really says a lot that the core mission of PSTA just naturally supports the community in this way. And, you know, that goes for everyone as well. So, thank you. I'm glad that we're able to show our support through the service that is provided for the event. All right, and with that, does anyone have any comments, any other business to discuss for today? Commissioner Latvala.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank PSTA. I was at the City of Largo Memorial Day ceremony on Monday at 11 o'clock with Commissioner Johnson, and there was a beautiful PSTA booth there, talking with the community members and veterans in attendance. So.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Anyone else? All right. Our next meeting will be June 26th at 9 a.m. Everyone, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.
Hey, Brian. You too, Vince. See you next month, if not soon.
Give my buddy a shot. That guy down at the new guy.
Good question. Sorry, I'm not listening.
I thought about it.